r/AskReddit. People who have witnessed there's not going to be a wedding moment following a bachelor/bachelorette party. What went down? For some reason, a guy I know decided to have a co-ed bachelor party and invited all of his friends from college, from youth, etc. This took place in a large city, and a lot of us that knew each other from high school all went to the same big commuter school in the city and lived with our parents through college. So it was a really unique group, lots of lifelong friends, and a bunch of new friends from college we brought into the fold. So here's our groom, Mr. Perpetual Life of the Party. Charismatic, fun, likes to have a good time, marrying a total buzzkill of a girl, but damned if she isn't smoking hot. Also very Catholic, and won't let the groom into her pants before the wedding. Groom has been pissed about this for a while, which led to some accelerated wedding plans. Anyway, co-ed bachelor party. Big ass beach house rental. Girls and guys. Turns into a total debauch fest. About half of us had dated or fooled around with each other through high school or college. So people are sneaking off in various states to do various things. Everything from smooching to full on three-ways. It was messy. I had really only dated a couple of girls in the group, one of whom I couldn't find, and the other was already busy getting d***ed in a bedroom, so me and another loner girl had pity sex with each other. We had just finished what turned out to be remarkably good pity sex when we heard the door to the next room close. These old beach houses had all been renovated a bunch to cram in as many bedrooms as possible, so the walls between were often thin. It was the groom, talking with my sort of ex, that I hadn't been able to find earlier. From what we could hear, everything, and what we learned later, it seemed that they'd been talking about the fact that the groom's bride-to-be was a real chilly person, and his lack of sex with her was really chafing. Well, you guessed it. They banged hard. Dude's known for having a monstrous gun, so the chick ended up getting really loud. Like, pretty much everyone not passed out knew the groom was railing her. So, 3 days later, everyone under the age of 40 at the wedding knows the groom sht up this girl, but nobody says nothing. 4 days into their honeymoon, groom comes home early and calls me and some other folks. Turns out he and the girl had been texting about their adventure while he was on his honeymoon with his wife, and included a choice bit about how his new wife was bad at sex. She saw the texts. Choice offered: ditch every friend you have and stay married, or leave. Guess which one he picked? Spoiler alert, they have like 8 kids now. Posted this a few years ago. Enjoy. Bouncing at a busy hipster club one weekend. I'm doing wristbands at the door when this bachelorette party comes stumbling to the door. It's about 11 at night and these girls are already pretty trashed. The bachelorette had one of those stupid sashes and her 3 friends were dressed to impress. I'll let them in. Nothing crazy. Fast forward 30 minutes later, and I rotate with another bouncer and stand guard at the side bar, which is also where the green room was. It wasn't a VIP type thing. People just went in there to do drugs with the club owner and his cousin. We can call them Chris and Steve, who were there every single night preying on girls. These guys were in their late 30s and this club was mostly 18 to 25, so while I thought it was creepy, they never left alone, so the girls didn't seem to think so. I see the bachelorette party girls doing shots at this sidebar. Chris is giving them free shots and making small talk. I had seen him in action many times, so I knew he was just trying to hook up with someone. They convinced the bachelorette to let Chris, Steve, and one of the bartenders, we can call him Joe, the body shots off her while she laid on the bar with her friends cheering her on. Then her and 2 of her friends started doing shots off each other and everyone got really drunk. I was bored and making small talk with one of her friends who was supposed to be DD, but was in no position to be driving. During the next few minutes, Steve convinces the bachelorette to come into the green room to, I assume, do coke while her other 2 friends are talking to some guys. I see Steve and Chris and bachelorette go in. Like 30 seconds later, Chris comes running out and gets Joe, who goes in. I get her friend's phone number and break off my conversation and make my way to the door, while the girl I was talking to met up with the other 2 friends who I guess assumed the bachelorette was in the bathroom. Right before I get to the door, Joe busts out and says, "You gotta get in on this." I walk in, and this girl is on the couch on all fours with her dress hiked up, saying the dirtiest shit, getting railed by Chris while giving an incredibly sloppy blowjob to Steve in between her saying "fuck me harder." Joe runs over and whips his junk out, and she starts going to town on him to saying shit like give me that cock, this is my last night. Then she flips onto her back and everyone switches around. No one is wearing protection, mind you. The contents of her purse are all over the couch and floor. Then another bouncer, we can call him Mike, comes in looking for me, so we can rotate spots, and stops in his tracks to stare at the Bachelorette gangbang going on. Without saying a word, he runs over and drops his pants to his ankles. Just as she is about to start blowing him, she throws up all over his junk and fills his bunched up pants and boxers with what seemed like a gallon of throw up. He tried to step back, but being immobilized by his pants, he fell back and put a hole in the drywall behind him. Joe, who was now the last of him, Chris and Steve to rail her, sees this happen in front of him and can't hold down whatever he ate before his shift because he blows chunks all over her tits, which were hanging out of her dress as well as all over her dress and bachelorette sash. He makes this awkward sigh of relief without messing up his rhythm. I don't know if he actually finished, but he kept going for at least another 10 seconds. While I don't think she even realized he blew chunks on her because she was still leaned over the side of the couch still heaving, and there was music playing kinda loud. Chris is yelling at Mike for putting a hole in the wall. Steve is rolling on the floor laughing. Me being the only sober one in the room, I tell Steve to put all her shit back in her purse. I lead her to one of the 2 bathrooms in the green room. Mike had now made his way to the other one. I tell Chris to go get her friends and tell her she threw up and was in the bathroom. Joe fortunately didn't get any puke on himself, so he just went back to the bar like nothing happened. Her friends come to her rescue and clean her up, and they all promptly leave like nothing happened. Now here's the really fucked up part. About 3 weeks later, the girl's friend that give me her number, I had lost it, walks up and I'm working the door. I somehow remembered her name and asked her how her friend's wedding went. She looked kind of puzzled, and I told her they were here a few weeks ago for her bachelorette party and we talked. Her eyes got really big and she started telling me the bachelorette had accidentally pocket dialed her fiance while she was getting railed on the couch and left a voicemail of it, and she claimed to have no memory of any of it, but they had lost track of her a few times and weren't sure where or what exactly happened. I played dumb and said that sucks, and then told everyone involved, who all seemed to think it was more funny than anything. I quit working there shortly after that because that shit is depressing, and it was always something every night. Really long and too late to really get any attention on this thread, but whatever. Copied and pasted from an old journal entry I wrote about it a few years after this shit show happened. This happened after the rehearsal dinner the night before the wedding, but I feel like it fits here. Fun fact, they got divorced about 4 years into the marriage. I'm surprised the wedding ended up happening at all. Blame any stupidly written bits, typos, etc. on my 23-year-old self who wrote this. I'm keeping a secret from my entire family just to protect the marriage of my cousin and her husband. In August of 2005, my older cousin Monica got married to a guy named Corey. They'd been together for just over a year and a half at this time. I flew down to the wedding as a bridesmaid. I met the other bridesmaids and groomsmen, including John, the groomsman who was going to be walking down the aisle with me during the ceremony. At the rehearsal dinner the night before the wedding, I'm only 20 and the only drink I had was one that my dad snuck me, so I wasn't drunk like the rest of my young Puerto Rican family was. The designated driver of our bridesmaid/groomsman bunch was John. It's about 9 PM when Monica is definitely shit-faced. She has implants. She was a Hooters waitress for a couple of years, so just envision the stereotypical Hooters waitress, and they were pouring out of her skimpy top, and she'd ask all the groomsmen to check to see if her nipples were showing. They're all mostly Corey's friends, so they were kind of embarrassed and not sure what to do with a skinny, cute, big-chested bride-to-be who had too much to drink. Corey decided it was time for them to go. Monica wanted me and her to go back with Corey to their house and spend the night watching movies and drinking some more. I was okay with this, as were my parents, and Corey obliged. John, being the designated driver, drove us in his extremely gorgeous metallic blue Dodge Viper back to Corey and Monica's. Then the shit hit the fan. John was driving. Corey was in the passenger seat. I was in the back behind John, and Monica was in the back behind Corey. Monica's nice mix of liquors must hit her brain like a fucking brick wall. She starts asking me things like, "Jesse, do you do anal? Because if you do you could get married just like me." While her shirt is slowly falling off, I start putting her back into her shirt and Corey starts asking Monica if she's okay. She said she started feeling sick, so we made a stop at John's house, which was on the way anyway. On the way there, Corey says something like, "This is so typical," to John and asks John if he can go to his dealer too. Until this night, I never knew Corey did drugs and never would have thought it possible since Monica has dumped guys for smoking pot. Monica flips a shit and starts punching Corey in the back of the head saying that she won't marry him if he gets blazed the night before their wedding. As she's hitting him, we arrive at John's house. John and I leave the car to go into the house and get Monica some water while Corey and her were arguing in the driveway. We come back out less than 5 minutes later to see Monica and Corey screaming at each other. Monica still punching Corey in the chest as he's trying to restrain her arms. We give Monica the glass of water, which was real glass, not plastic or paper, and she throws it at Corey's head and the glass crashes to the ground right behind John's parked VIP. Monica runs away down the street, which is definitely causing her big tits to fall out of her shirt. Corey chases after her as she nears a main intersection about 50 yards down from John's house. I help John clean up the glass so we can drive his car out of the driveway without getting a flat. We drive towards the intersection and see Monica flashing cars on the main road to try to get a ride. Corey tries to get her shirt back on and she's punching him. She grabs her cell phone and calls 2 of the other bridesmaids and tells them, "He's abusing me. He hit me and knocked me down. I can't marry him. I'm never going to marry him. He hit me and he's beating me up." I finally get the phone away from her and call back the girls she called to tell them the real story. Corey and John shove Monica back in the car and we drive off to Corey's. It's about 10:30 when we get to Corey and Monica's house. We go inside and Corey's dealer, not sure of his name, was there with some pills for him. Corey grabs them, pays the dealer, and gives them to me to hold on to. At this point the whole running incident must have cleared Monica's head and she started apologizing. But Corey was pissed, so he took 4 of the pills I was holding on to. I took one, didn't really feel anything, and I don't really know what they were, with a beer. He left and said he'd be back. Monica is crying, and John left, but gave me his cell phone number in case anything gets out of hand. Funny, because I go into the bathroom to pee, and when I'm done Monica is gone. I got John to come back, and the 2 of us scoured the area to find Monica calling her maid of honor in tears. I get on the phone with the girl and tell her what's really going on, since I was the second most sober one out of the group. We get Monica back into the house and John leaves again. I'm talking to Monica, then Corey comes back. All Corey wants to do is go to sleep. It's about 11:30 at this point and his wedding is the next day, assuming it's going to happen. Monica is pestering him because she wants to sleep in the same bed as him, but he's still mad and just needed his space. Monica shuts the door to their bedroom saying that she and Corey are going to have a talk. Next thing I know, I hear bang, and Corey runs out of the room. Corey shoved Monica, she fell, and hit her nose on the corner of the nightstand. She had a 2-inch long gash on her nose and was bleeding. I help her up, clean her up, and call John. He gets there and I'm like, what the fuck do I do? About 5 minutes later, Corey comes back, and John and I yell at him. Monica wasn't mad, she actually started apologizing. Corey has no recollection whatsoever of even coming back to the house until then. He must have blacked out from the pills and liquor, and when we told him what he did, he freaked out. He threatened to turn himself into the cops, but after a while we just convinced them both to go to bed, so they did. The next day, I made up a huge lie about how Monica was drunk and fell over her own 2 feet, hitting her face on the corner of the kitchen counter. Everyone bought it. We were able to cover up the cut with lots of makeup, and they got married. I'm the only one who was there from beginning to end, and if any of this ever leaked to my family, they'd lose all trust in me, my cousin, and especially her husband. A few months later, I got a package in the mail from Monica. It was a Kai hair straightener and a Starbucks gift card. There was a note with it that said something like, "We wouldn't have made it without you." After the wedding at the reception, the newlyweds took forever to show up. They were nearly an hour late. When they did arrive they were arguing loudly the entire time. They got introduced, and we all clapped as per tradition, and they sat down at the main table in a half. Sometime between the appetizer and the main course the argument started again. The groom stormed off, and my girlfriend and I were nosy, so we went to see what was up. He ended up in the hotel lobby on his cell phone. We thought nothing of it, and we were about to go back, when the wife shows up still obviously in her wedding dress, and continues to ream him out. Now for the first time, we can hear what the argument is about. He had invited his ex to the wedding. She showed up to the ceremony and that threw the bride off. Apparently also, he had cheated on the new wife with the ex-girlfriend several times, with the last time being only about a month prior to the wedding. Additionally, the ex/girlfriend/mistress was on her way to come pick up the new husband to take him away from the new bride, cause she was acting crazy. According to the groom, after a couple minutes of watching this train wreck of an argument, a shitty rust bucket sedan shows up with the ex-girlfriend in it. The groom gets into the car with his ex, or whatever the fuck she is, and they drive off. Last words went to the bride though, who screamed at him as he tore off, "Well, I guess I'm going to go back to fucking your brother then, you asshole." So, they're no longer married now. There's a story that goes around. I can't vouch for the truth of it or not. Call it an urban legend. First of all, if you've never been to a Jewish wedding, the way it goes is, first they have the reception, with the bride and groom in separate rooms, then the ceremony, then family goes away to sit for pictures, while the guests sit down to eat, then the bride and groom come in, and the dancing starts. In between the ceremony and the pictures, though, is what's called yichud, which doesn't really translate, but it approximately means isolation together. The bride and groom lock themselves in a room, and are observed by 2 reliable witnesses outside the door, to have stayed therein long enough to have consummated the marriage. Although nobody actually does it there, it's considered decorous. This is what actually solemnizes the marriage. Well, one of 3 things. The other 2 are signing a marriage contract, called a ketubah, and transfer of a piece of chattel property, traditionally a ring, though it can be other things, from the groom to the bride. So, after the yichud, the bride comes out and announces, "Sorry everyone, the wedding's off. We'll be getting a divorce, and we are returning all the gifts. Except for the bedroom set, where I caught my new husband trying it out with my sister last week." So, there are far worse stories here in this very thread. What makes this one noteworthy? Well, think about this. She knew about the episode before the wedding. Why'd she go through with it? Because under Jewish law, if you've once been married to a woman, even after divorcing her, you aren't allowed to marry her sister at any time until your first wife has died. By going through with the ceremony, she in effect locked her sister out of ever being able to get together with her soon-to-be ex. I'm a musician. I work on an infamous street for drunken revelry and debauchery. One night, a bachelor party came in around the same time as a bachelorette party. The show I work with does special things like funny songs for special events, so I bring them both up at the same time to do something special. In the middle of this, on stage, they start making out. And they do not stop. I finish my routine as best I can and get them off stage. Later, as I'm looking around the audience, my eye catches on them again. They're in the back corner just going at it, while their respective parties hang out up near the front of the stage. And they are really getting into it. Hands down pants and up skirts. At some point they disappear. I take a break and head to the restroom. It's locked. I hear a woman screaming from within. Not moaning, not saying. Screaming "fuck me harder." I sit in the lounge area outside the bathroom for about 10 minutes. The bachelor and bachelorette come out, looking a bit disheveled, but not too bad. They see me and immediately want to chat. For some reason, people always want to get to know the musicians here. There's curiously no guilt on them at all. I have to piss like a racehorse, but this is too good to pass up. Come to find out, they both are getting married to other people, but know each other from having lived in the same small town of about 5,000 all their lives. They ran into each other for the first time since high school graduation at our bar, and old feelings emerged that neither had ever attempted to act on. They don't stay along, and as they leave I hear the bachelor say, "I have my own room. Let's go there." The rest of the party stays till the show is over, partying hard and having fun. Possibly the best bachelor/bachelorette parties I've had. Usually bachelor parties get too drunk and bachelorette parties devolve into crying fits and arguments. In a hoe, I wind up seeing the bachelor and bachelorette together at our bar and out in the street every night for 4 nights. Always holding hands and or getting frisky. They came back a little over a year later. They got married here in our town to each other instead of who they were engaged to that fateful night. Most of their respective bachelor/bachelorette show up for the event. With this story, I always feel torn. Did I participate in the destruction of 2 relationships, or did I facilitate the meeting of 2 soulmates? Edit. I thought I might eventually have to disclose what street it was, or that it would be obvious, but now I see there are so many. Edit 2. As many of you have guessed, and keep guessing, it is in fact Bourbon Street in New Orleans, Louisiana. I won't speak to the type of bar or the specific place. NOLA is a crazy enough place without adding Reddit stalkers. Oh man. So I have a good story. Night before the wedding, rehearsal dinner is at a distillery. Everyone gets hammered. I mean everyone, even the grandparents, all extremely intoxicated. The groom's dad was so drunk that when he tries to give his speech to the couple-to-be, he cannot even talk nor stand up. After the rehearsal dinner, the whole wedding party decides it is a good idea to go out drinking some more at some karaoke bar. At the bar, the groom's little sister, who was in high school at the time, randomly decides to get on stage to try her hand at drunken karaoke. However, instead of singing a song, she just starts talking about how she wants to fuck all the groomsmen. Promptly her family rips her off stage and takes her home. Later in the night, everyone is having a great drunken time, but then the bride drunkenly tells the groom that she is not sure if she loves him anymore. The groom becomes enraged, leaves the bar, attempting to stumble back to his hotel, which wasn't anywhere near the bar. The groom's brother runs after him trying to calm him down, and the groom ends up getting into a huge fist fight with his brother/best man. The next day, the groom and best man look like they had both been hit by a truck. For some reason the wedding is still on. The groom's mother decides the only way to fix things is by trying to cover the wounds with makeup. So now, you have the groom and best man looking like Casper the Friendly Ghost up on the altar, and then in walks the bride, drunk off her ass. They end up both saying I do, but weeks later, as expected, they get divorced. Ends up that before the wedding, while the groom was on his bachelor party weekend, they met a bunch of girls who were going to the same place for a bachelorette party. The groom hooks up with one of the girls he meets. Long story short, now he is married to the girl who he cheated on his ex-fiancée/wife with, and has been for the past 7 years. It is always funny to think back on how much of a shit show that wedding was. Buddy of mine was getting married. We went out for drinks. His wife did not permit him to have a bachelor party. We drank and he told me about the abuse and how she masked it all as BDSM play, dom/sub lifestyle. The wedding was 2 weeks away. Only, he hated it and only did it because he had low self-esteem. She was really aggressive. She had come on to me the year before and I said no. She went so far as to wake me up by sitting on me naked on the couch when I crashed once at their place. I was drunk, still thought I was dreaming at first, but came to my senses before anything terrible happened. I told him about it later, but he chalked it up as just her dumb personality. He didn't seem to care, even though I knew better. Anyway, we come home from the bar and sit in the living room and watch TV. I'm not really that drunk, but tired, so I fall asleep for a bit in a chair watching an old MacGyver run. He goes off to his fiancée, and I assume they are having kinky sex or something. About 30 minutes later I wake up to my buddy putting stuff in a backpack. He says he is going to go to a hotel. He cannot stay here with her anymore. Says he will drop me home. That's when she comes out in full crotchless leather dom gear with some guy on a leash. Starts yelling at him and doing some fairly familiar dom commands. He isn't having any of it and leaves while yelling at her for cheating and also leaving me there. Then, she yells at me for not trying to stop him. I just say, "You are the one with handcuffs," and I walked home. The wedding was cancelled by him, and she spent the next month saying shit about how he was intolerant of her lifestyle over MySpace. Yeah, I'm old. All I cared about was my buddy getting out of an abusive relationship. He is now married to one of the best women I know. So, a happy ending. Edit. She got involved with this other sub and eventually married him. He actually used to hang with us at our favorite bar a lot, but he was not a friend. She made him start wearing a male chastity piece so he would not cheat or touch himself while she was not there. We called him Penis Cage from that point on, mostly because my buddy was a bit raw from the whole deal and we wanted to support him. She was really beyond abusive with him, stuff I don't want to get into here. We will say it was bad and not your healthy BDSM. Different strokes for different folks. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe the channel.